Today's lesson is on graphing formulas, and you can find this on page 90. The first question is going to ask you to evaluate the expression 3n minus 1 for each value of n. So they'll give you like n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3, n equals 4. So we're going to start with going through step by step for n equals 1. So what happens is you are going to take the expression they have given you. So 3n minus 1, and then we're going to replace it with our value of n. So instead of writing n, we're going to write 1. Now remember, when a number is next to a variable, remember the first number is the coefficient and this is the variable, the operation that is showing is multiplication. So this would be the same thing as 3 times 1 minus 1. Now if we remember our order of operations, brackets, exponents, multiplication, and division. So we need to do our multiplication first. So first we would say 3 times 1 equals 3, and then we continue writing the rest of our equation, and then 3 minus 1 equals 2. So your work should be written vertically like this, and you have your final answer at the bottom. So n equals 2. I won't do all of the next example for you, but I'll start it off. So when we have n equals 2, we'll start with our expression again, 3n minus 1, and now we're replacing n, instead of with 1, we'll replace it with 2, which is going to be 3 times 2 minus 1. You don't need to write both of these steps if you understand that they're the same thing, but just to show you that this top one meant multiplication, that's just why I wrote it out separately, but you don't need to do that. So then remember, you'll have to do your multiplication first, and then you'll do your subtraction. Question 2 is going to ask you to evaluate the expression for n equals 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you'll put your final answers into the t-table that they have given you. So for each question, they'll give you an expression with a variable in it, and they'll give you a t-table. So we're going to start with n equals 1. So we'll write out our expression 3n plus 4, and so our n is going to equal 1. So we have to do multiplication first. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 4, and then 3 plus 4 is 7. So in our chart, when n is 1, 3n plus 4 equals 7. Then we'll do number 2. So we'll start with our same expression, but instead of replacing n with 1, we'll replace it with 2, and we copy out the rest of our expression. So multiplication comes before addition in BEDMAS. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 4, and 6 plus 4 is 10. So we put 10 into our chart. Now we move on to number 3. So 3n plus 4, this time we're figuring out what would happen if n equaled 3. So we start with multiplication. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 4, and 9 plus 4 is 13. And that will go in our chart beside 3. 3n plus 4, if we're calculating n equals 4, so that's what we'll substitute for it. So 3 times 4 is 12, plus 4 is 16. And our last value, we're figuring out if n equals 5. So 3 times 5 plus 4. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 4 equals 19. And we'll put that in our chart. So this is what it should look like when you are finished. You will probably not have enough space to show all of your work in your book, so it's okay if you need to use a notebook or a piece of lined paper to show all of the work, and then this is what you'll put in your book. Question number 3 actually has 3 parts. So your first job is to finish the t-table. Your second job is to write the ordered pairs, and your third job will be to plot the points on a graph. So for our first part, we need to complete the t-table. So the t-table tells us that the expression we're looking at is 4n minus 2, and it also tells us that we need to find the values for n for 1 through 5. So we'll start with number 1. So 4, replace the n with 1, minus 2, so 4 times 1, because remember, order of operations, we have to do 4 times 1 first, is 4 minus 2 equals 2, and that goes in our graph. Then we're going to do 4n minus 2, but instead of n being 1, it will be 2. So we start with multiplication. 4 times 2 is 8, minus 2, and 8 minus 2 is 6. So that goes into our graph here. Then we have 4n minus 2, and this time n is going to equal 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, minus 2 equals 10. 4n minus 2 equals 4 times 4 minus 2 equals 16 minus 2 equals 14. And 4n minus 2, this is our final one, n is going to equal 5, so we'll substitute that. We need to do our multiplication, so 4 times 5 is 20, minus 2 equals 18. So now our chart is complete. Our next step is to write ordered pairs for our t-table. So we're just going to write them in like first number, second number order. So I'm going to put these on the bottom here. So we'll have 1, 2, because we do our first number, then our second number. Our next ordered pair will be 2, 6, 3, 10, 4, 14, and 5, 18. So remember, this is from a previous lesson where when we write our ordered pairs, it's just first number, second number, and we put them in order. Here's your first ordered pair, here's your second, here's your third, and you write them in order. Our final step, number 3, is to plot the points on a graph. So I've just used a picture of the graph that they'll have in your textbook. And so they give you kind of a rectangular grid, but that's fine, we can still use it. So you're going to look at your first ordered pair, and we've got our x and our y value. So remember, x is our horizontal axis going along the bottom, and y is our vertical axis going up and down. So if we have 1 and 2, we need to go to 1 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. So even though there's no number 2 here, we know because of the spacing, this would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 and 2, and we will plot our point right where that intersection is. Then we have 2 and 6. So 2 on the x-axis, 6 on the y-axis. We'll plot our point. 3 and 10, so 3 is x, y 10, so 3x, y 10, that's just going to be 1 above 9. So we will plot our point there. 4 and 14, so 4 and 14, it's going to be 1 below 15. So we plot our point, and our last one is 5 and 18, so x-axis 5, y-axis 18 is going to be right at the top. And the instructions here don't ask you to connect them with a line, so you're fine to just leave it as the dots, and you are finished. The Google form will ask you a series of questions. The first question might say something like, evaluate 3n minus 1 when n equals 1, and you're given a space for a short answer. You just need to put in the answer for when you have solved it. So this is taken directly from your textbook, so you should be able to look at your workbook page and go, oh, this was my answer. But to show you guys the work again, right, if we had 3n minus 1, and we're seeing when n equals 1, well then 3 times 1 is 3 minus 1 equals 2. So all you would need to write for your answer is 2. Okay, so it's fairly simple. Your first question would just be 2. Your next question might be 5, right? So just pay attention to what it says, but that's just to give you an idea of what it's asking and what kind of an answer it is looking for. As always, remember to comment on FreshGrade or Google Classroom if you need help, and I am more than happy to set up a little Zoom meeting tutorial.